Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the May 8th meeting of the Thousand Oaks City Council to order. And can I have everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Have Ms. Lawrence please do the roll call.
Councilmember Fox?
Here.
Councilmember Glancy is absent this evening. Councilmember Price?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Bill De La Pena?
Present.
Mayor Irwin?
Here. Item 4, request for continuance of any public hearing or agenda item, and we are going to be pulling consent calendar item 7I off the agenda, and the second reading on amendment number 4 to specific plan number 11. Oh, pulled for discussion, yes. And the city attorney will also provide information on consent calendar item 7J when we get to the consent calendar. And now is the time for special presentations. I will be walking up to the podium to present. White Public Works time yet. Is the mic on? Okay. Here at the City of Thousand Oaks, we are fortunate to have 3 extraordinary resident companies. The professionalism of their performances are among the best. Our theaters offer both adults and youth access to a wide array of entertainment, as well as increasing exposure to varied cultural experiences. Tonight we are going to hear from a talented artist from one of our resident companies, the New West Symphony. Throughout the year, New West Symphony promotes the growth of classical music opportunities in our communities and our local schools. Natalia, the executive director of the Symphony, will share information on their upcoming performance. Natalia.
Thank you so much. I'd like to start with the performance because music makes wonders. So I'd like to introduce our principal cellist, Mark Tanner, who will perform Bach Cello Suite Number 3. Thank you, Mark. Mark is one of about 70 professional musicians who gather together to perform with New West Symphony. He's actually running to a rehearsal that is happening in about an hour for our upcoming concert. The upcoming concert marks the end of the season of guest conductors for New West Symphony, and we're very excited that we will be making an announcement very shortly about our upcoming artistic leader who will take over for Boris Brott in September of 2012. This week we have a very famous pianist. His name is Anton Corti, who is making a return appearance as a guest conductor and a soloist as a guest artist, a soloist for the final New West Symphony concert. He will perform Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 4, and this program also includes Brahms' Symphony No. 1. We have guest conductor Andreas Delfs, who is the conductor laureate of the Milwaukee Symphony, who's coming to conduct the New West Symphony on Saturday, May 12th at 8 o'clock at the Civic Arts Plaza in Kavli Theater. Guest conductor Andreas Delfs is also the conductor laureate of the Milwaukee Symphony. During his 12 years as music director of that symphony, he was instrumental in bringing it to national prominence through acclaimed recording projects, commissions of new works, and world premieres. He has also been the music director of St. Paul Chamber Orchestra and resident conductor of Pittsburgh Symphony. Maestro Delfs has conducted major orchestras throughout the United States and Europe and has made numerous recordings with guest artists, including most recently soprano Renee Fleming and pianist John O'Connor. The tickets are available at the number on your screen. You can get the tickets by calling 1-866-776-8400 or 805-497-5800. As part of our education, we present lively and very informative pre-concert discussion that happen at the theater at 7 p.m. So I invite you all to join us this weekend for our season finale. And again, it's happening on Saturday at 8 o'clock at Kavli Theater. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalia. That was really wonderful. And again, we are very, very fortunate to have New West Symphony as our resident company, and I encourage all our residents to come see a concert this year. As you can see by looking around you, we are celebrating tonight. Would our Public Works Director, Jay Spurgeon, please join me? Is he coming? All right. Each year we acknowledge Public Works Week in May. It is a recognition of the tens of thousands of men and women who provide and maintain the infrastructure and services collectively known as public works. This week we recognize the professionals who serve the public good in every day with quiet dedication. And Jay, will you please tell us a little bit about the importance of what Public Works does every day? There he is. Bring him up the rear.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin. Public Works Week has been celebrated across the nation since 1960, and this year, Public Works Week is May 20 through 26. The theme for this year is Public Works Creating a Lasting Impression. And turn that poster around there. It's a nice poster here of the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the iconic symbols of engineering and public works. What could be more inspiring? This theme speaks to the never-ending efforts of public works professionals everywhere using sustainable solutions to provide our communities with high-quality life within a framework of environmental, social, and economic sustainability. The Public Works Department is literally the foundation of our great city of Thousand Oaks. The 200 men and women in our department, all of us here tonight, that's the cue. Yay! Our job is to maintain and enhance city infrastructure that provides our basic life needs. And this includes our streets and roads, our water, wastewater systems, street trees, landscaping, public transit, the city fleet, and engineering construction of our capital projects. The City of Thousand Oaks Public Works Department is unique in that we are one of only a few in the state of California who have been accredited through the American Public Works Association. We are, in fact, the only agency in Ventura County. What this accreditation says is that the city and our department have model programs and practices in place that we follow in performing our duties. Please come join us at our open house on May 22nd and 23rd at the Municipal Service Center, which is located at 1993 Rancho Canal Boulevard. We showcase our services to school children from throughout the community. It's really a fun event. The kids have a great time, and it just shows what we do to the up-and-coming generation, how important our job is that we provide 365 days a year. Lastly, I wanted to let you know who our 2012 Public Works Employee of the Year is. She is here tonight, and it is Kathy Lowry. There's Kathy. Kathy is an engineering associate in our traffic engineering division, and she was one of 7 of our exceptional staff who were nominated for this award by their peers. Kathy represents the type of public works employee that we are all striving to emulate. She is an excellent public service representative through her involvement in the community with school children to make Thousand Oaks a better and safer place for bicycles. So thank you, City Council, for your support over the years, to our department, the important job that we do day in and day out, and providing the leadership for that. So thank you.
Right, and congratulations again to Kathy. I have a proclamation here in honor of National Public Works Week, and that is for Mr. Spurgeon. And then instead of a picture right here, I think we're going to move everybody onto the carpet, and the council can come forward in a group so we can get a Public Works picture.
Very good. Okay.
Very nice. You guys look great. Oh, no, I think I'll sit. All right, and for our last presentation, I would like to ask Steve Brogdon, our library director, to come up. The City of Thousand Oaks Grant Brimhall Library and its Newbury Park branch are always among the most visited and most enjoyed of the city facilities. Tonight, Steve is going to tell us about a specialized division of the library that offers residents valuable information as well as entertaining information.
Thank you, Mayor Irwin, council members. As you all know, this is the 30th anniversary of Thousand Oaks Library, and we're celebrating it throughout the year. To help us celebrate, a few months ago, some TOTV folks came over. In fact, it was Richard Swingler, who's done a fabulous job, and did some videos of various aspects of the library. And this evening, you're going to see a short video of the Special Collections Department. And I just want to mention, before we get into that, that the librarian who's featured in there is Jeanette Berard. In addition to having her master's in library science, she's also a certified archivist. We stole her from the Autry Museum, where her specialties in archival work were photography and sound, and that fits in so very well with what we're doing at the library. She also was raised in Thousand Oaks, so she knows the local history aspect very well, and all those components blend very well into our special collections department. So without further ado, I'd like to have TOTV roll the video.
The thing about special collections and archives at the Thousand Oaks Library is that unlike the books and magazines and CDs that you find in the rest of the library, our materials are usually what you'd call primary sources. It's the original thing, not a book written about the person, but that person's book or journal or letters. And so you can go back to the original material before anybody else put their interpretation on it and see for yourself what these things were. We have original scripts, one of the largest collections of radio scripts in the world. The American Radio Archives started around Rudy Valley, and we have the premier collection on Rudy Valley in the world. We also have collections of Norman Corwin, Frank Brzee, a number of important radio writers and personalities, as well as collections of KNX and the Pacific Pioneer Broadcasters, and many others related to television and radio broadcasting.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the following play, any similarity to caterpillars, living or dead, is purely coincidental.
Take a bow, G.I. Take a bow, little guy. The Superman of tomorrow lies at the feet of you common men of this afternoon.
Norman Corwin is a very famous radio writer who went on to work in television and radio, got his start at CBS with Words Without Music and Columbia Presents Corwin's. He went on to many award-winning shows, including writing the movie screenplay A Lust for Life, which was nominated for an Oscar. Some of his most famous works were On a Note of Triumph, which signaled the end of the war in Europe in 1945. My Client Curly, which is a wonderful tale about a caterpillar becoming a star, which was later made into a movie with Cary Grant. And We Hold These Truths, which is about the American Bill of Rights.
Wouldn't surprise me none if we had to fight more wars.
Why, you mean to say we're maybe going to have to fight all over again to keep our independence? Well, I hope it don't get to be a habit.
I hope it does. Pretty good habit to get into, fighting for your rights. Always somebody waiting for a chance to steal valuables. And if freedom ain't a valuable, I don't know what is.
Norman Corwin was a very important man in radio, mostly because of how intellectual his writings were. He had a wide vocabulary. He's one of the only people I ever knew that actually read a dictionary for fun. And he loved playing with words. And when you look at his scripts, you can see how he's reworked and reworked, finding the exact word that would express his emotions about the thing as well as the fact of the thing. And in the 40s and the 50s, when he was at his most prominent, I think that's what people really enjoyed about him, was the feeling that he was a real word master, that he put a real intellectual view on everything he did, whether it was humor or whether it was a serious piece. I think the kind of literary expression that he brought to radio doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, that's something that's frozen in time now.
All right. I suppose it's do or die.
You feel any better?
No, he went up.
Well, stay under it some more. Is it easing?
No, damn it, I'm freezing.
I don't need to be polite, but these roses are going. My wife isn't feeling well, and I want to bring these roses home while they still look good. I just say thank you for coming and listening and responding.
The materials that we have are unique in that a lot of these things truly are one of a kind and cannot be found anywhere else, which is why people come from all over the world to see this collection. Even though we do reference online and over the phone for people, a lot of people want to come and see that for themselves. And there's something really to be said for seeing the original letter and really taking it in, really being able to see and touch the original things that imparts something about the creation that you just can't get out of a book or other material. Whether you're interested in radio history and Norman Corwin, or if you'd like to learn more about the Conejo Valley, please feel free to come down to Special Collections at the Thousand Oaks Library, and we'll be glad to help you.
Very nice. Thank you, Steve, for bringing these collections to our city, and thank you to the library staff for doing a great job of serving the public and making this information easily accessible. All right. Item 6, public comments. Can I have Ms. Lawrence please announce?
This is the time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding items on the agenda or in a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for public hearing items shall be called and heard during the public hearing. All remarks should be addressed to the Council as a whole, and all documents for City Council and the official city record should be presented to the City Clerk prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Council unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the City Manager for administrative follow-up. 4 people have presented cards, and pursuant to Council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Our first speaker is Lori Sorensen. Good evening, Ms. Sorensen.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Irwin. Lori Sorensen, 30-year resident of Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks, and Administrative Director of Pacific Festival Ballet, the resident ballet company here at the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza. Since the grand opening in 1994, Pacific Festival Ballet's 18 seasons have included our annual signature Nutcracker in December, along with many of the favorite classics and several world premieres each spring in our beautiful state-of-the-art Kavli Theater. Mayor Irwin, members of the City Council, and to all of our viewing audience, we invite you to a fabulous community event. Encore performances of Noah's Ark, a theatrical dance epic for the entire family to enjoy. Noah's Ark is a collaboration of 2 local creative minds. Kim Maselli, Artistic Director of Pacific Festival Ballet, who created a spectacular vision that combines modern, traditional, and ethnic dance elements to support the audience to turbulent ancient times. Malibu resident Eric Alleman composed the original score that expresses the roller coaster of emotions that this timeless story conveys. Anchored by 20 esteemed guest artists from the professional dance world, PFB also incorporates 60 aspiring young dancers from its training school, the California Dance Theater. Noah's Ark begins on May 18th with a school outreach performance designed to enrich young students through the exposure of the arts. Of the 1,200 students attending, 500 will attend through the generosity of the Alliance for the Arts Kids in the Arts program, bringing the gift of theater to local underserved children. 3 encore performances of Noah's Ark for the public will be on Saturday, May 19th, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. and Sunday, May 20th at 2 p.m. On YouTube, you can check out Noah's Ark 5-minute promo, as well as the making of Noah's Ark 2012 for a sneak peek. Tickets for Noah's Ark are on sale at the Civic Arts Plaza box office or Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss the boat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen. Our next speaker is Mr. Nick Iqbal Kidwai.
I begin in the name of God, who is most beneficial, most merciful. Nick Iqbal Kidwai, resident of Newbury Park, Director, Concerned Cities of Thousand Oaks. My favorite Dr. Glancy is not here, and the council policy is not to tell us what's happening. This is a second meeting left in a row. I hope everything is fine with Dr. Glancy. If TOTV can show my overhead, it is election time, and some of the signs are out there. Thank you, TOTV. That sign in the front is on Newbury Park High School property, I believe, and the second picture of this sign, it's on the public right-of-way. This ordinance was passed in '98, and I believe Supervisor Parks was on the council at the time. I've been speaking about it for a dozen years now, that you need to change it, be like the rest of the cities, open up the city so that people can run without having to spend millions of dollars. This is a cheap way to get your name out. Cannot turn pages. TOTV, thank you. That's a spicy burger at Burger King. Not Burger, Wendy's. I cannot even remember the name, near my home. I mean, I've sold signs, and signs are a big thing in this city. And one of the ultimate no-nos is to put signs on the roof. And not only is the business now being allowed to do it, but for the last few elections, Mr. Fox, Irwin, in fact, Mr. Gallagher have put up signs by the 23 and 101. And part of the reason these things happen is because of the strict sign ordinance, that there isn't room. And there is the opportunity for every council member to put 2 items on the agenda at every meeting. But I guess if 20 people come over here, maybe that would do it. I want to again show my 30-30 plan, because you are doing negotiations, and it's about time to cut the salaries of those making over $150,000, cut the perks, as well as the free cars and 90% pension benefits. I mean, the taxpayers just cannot afford all those kind of nice things. In 30 seconds, there is a redevelopment hearing tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It was set at 2 in the past. This is basically so that the citizens cannot come in. The city has lost the first round, $34 million. That's what. TOTV, please show that quickly. That's from the state of California that has 5 items. These are almost non-appealable because there's no paperwork to back it up. And I hope the city will lose and cry.
Hi. All right. Our next speaker is Debbie Gregory. Good evening, Ms. Gregory.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Gregory. I'm a long-term resident of Thousand Oaks. I'm also the CEO of MilitaryConnection.com. We've had the honor for the last 6 years to join forces with the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library to produce the 9/11 Freedom Walk and program. And through that association and through Military Connection, I have had the honor, the awe of meeting so many heroes who have sacrificed so much for freedom. And it's very disappointing to see that we don't have freedom here in Thousand Oaks. We don't have the freedom to elect our own officials to the City Council. Some of these heroes have gone to third world countries so that they can have free elections, but we don't get those here. So I want to talk about why we need the Right to Vote initiative. I want to ask everyone to go, if they're on their computer, to contact, CONTACT, at TORightToVote.org. The council majority of Fox, Glancy, and Mrs. Irwin decided that they knew better than the voters. They're smarter than us. And in order to keep their political power, they decided to appoint Mr. Price as a council member, not until the next election, which is in November, but for 3 years of Mr. Gillette's term that's left. They also said they wanted someone like-minded. However, when Mr. Glancy was appointed to replace Ed Masry, my dear friend, Mr. Glancy was one of the people that was on a mailer that said that Mr. Masry was a money launderer. So I would not call that like-minded. But the point is, you can do something so that this is never done again. If you want to sign a petition, if you want to circulate petitions, go to contact at TORightToVote.org. The Ventura County Star said the move by this council majority reeks of control issues and power politics. The TO Acorn said this election felt like a backroom deal, and it is a backroom deal. It's wrong. So please sign this. It's a no-brainer, and it'll be my honor, and I'm going to be presenting the righttovote.org a check to help with the signature gathering. You can collect signatures, you can help financially, and you can sign petitions. But we have to take the right of this council to circumvent democracy in the United States, in Thousand Oaks, one of the most affluent places, in order to keep their political power. If they thought they could win, they would have allowed an election. But you have the right to vote also in November, so you can vote out Dr. Glancy and Mrs. Irwin, who voted themselves lifetime health care benefits for themselves and their families. Vote in November and sign the Right to Vote initiative. Thank you.
Right, our last speakers are Glenn Kimball and Kate Pearl. Hello, Mr. Kimball.
Bet you guys thought you got rid of me, eh? Though I might come back. It seems pretty empty in here. I'm here because I want to extend to you guys and girls that we were very, very thankful for you voting on and even considering in the first place our proposal, and to show our thankfulness, we got you something.
Oh, that is great.
The GMO-free cake, too.
Okay, yeah, so not only are we saving the earth, we're preventing you from getting organ damage. And we just, I made it myself. It's completely free of, it's completely organic, completely free of GMOs. And the strawberries on top are from McGrath Farms in Camarillo. So we bought local and organic, and it's for you guys, so we hope you enjoy it. Do you know where we should put it?
That would be great if you just hey, you know, you two.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take this with me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. I thank you very much, and you two are two very impressive high school students. I know you'll go far with your passion and drive, and we appreciate you coming back, and we will eat our cake. Thank you. And I did want the city manager to comment. We do have a speaker commenting about us voting in lifetime benefits. What we actually did was they were long-time benefits that we voted to terminate. As a matter of fact, our newest council member has no insurance benefits at all. So, Mr. Mitnick, can you comment on that, please?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, back in November 2011, the council did adopt changes to the health insurance benefit program for the council members. So the medical insurance premiums that you have are capped at the public service minimum, $112 a month. And so the new council members, that's what that's the minimum. That's the maximum. That's what they can get. You can certainly opt out of the insurance that you have. The city is covering the gap between the minimum and what the council members decide to receive, but you can certainly opt out or go down to the bare minimum, and the mayor has done that, significantly reduced the cost of her insurance. So, and the new council member, technically, he's taking the minimum, $112. So, you did make some significant changes. You worked collaboratively and cooperatively with the Ventura County Taxpayers Association, and you did pretty much the maximum that you can do, but it needs to be stressed you do have the option to go to a lower plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Our next item is item 7, the consent calendar. The city attorney has requested that 7J is pulled. 7I has already been pulled, and I am going to pull 7E. Anybody else?
I will move the balance of the consent calendar.
Vote, please.
Mayor, we have a speaker for the consent.
I'm sorry. Mr. Kidwai.
Nick Kidwai. Very difficult to remember that there may be citizens, since the flag is still there, that want to speak on the consent calendar, which has a lot of money items. If the TOTV can again help me, that's the draft minutes from the last meeting, and the highlighted portion is about the personhood issue that the council voted on, which is basically a wonderful thing about democracy. But the minutes continue to be shameful. It doesn't even show if the people who spoke were pro or against. So, I mean, in the future, historians or even these kids, the 18-year-old that just left, he's in college, he wants to brag about what they did. The minutes are just... And one of the reasons, I mean, if I might say, be bold enough to say, is 20 years ago, I went to the old country and I told my brothers and others, I said, you know, once you start living in a free atmosphere, you cannot live when you have a martial law and you have somebody wearing a uniform. And now we are blessed with wonderful people in uniform. And the council rules allow that you can bring the item up, 2 items every time. I don't know why you are, everyone on the council is so stingy with bringing council issues. That's why the limit is 2. It used to be, council people used to bring 3 or 4 items. But you can bring 2 and be within the limits. Number F talks about additional grant revenue for DUIs. How much is it? $16,500. I just want to bring that up because the city manager constantly, I guess harass is a good word, the citizens that this is a low-tax city and we don't pay enough taxes. When the real problem with this city has always been, in my humble opinion, and still remains, is that there's too much money floating around. That's one of the reasons these benefits have been done away with, but there are all other kind of benefits. In fact, one of the things that I've bragged about, basically, I do brag about a lot of things about the city, is that we have one of the greatest graffiti programs. But if you look at G, now the city won't be paying it. And that's the thing, I mean, the devil is in the details. I mean, people, it's an empty chamber. People are busy watching the Clippers tomorrow, and I think maybe the Lakers are on tonight. It's great. I mean, they are great teams. Go. But, you know, we are being Our wallets are being cleaned out by bureaucrats. And how much is the dollars? It doesn't even talk about it. Yeah, so whatever amount they feel they can charge for the graffiti abatement, the taxpayers will be stuck with it. I guess I can't speak on the rest. Thank you for letting me speak anyway on what I did speak on.
Thank you, Mr. Kidwai. All right, can I please have Ms. Noonan explain 7? Oh, yes. Let's vote on the remainder of the consent calendar, please.
The motion carries 4-0, and I'll read the title for item K. Ordinance adopting amendment number 1 to specific plan number 20, Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan to detached property located southwest corner of Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Dallas Drive, West Side Properties, SPA 2012-70019.
All right, Ms. Noonan.
With respect to item 7J, I ask that it be pulled. Item 7I pertains to specific plan amendment number 4 with respect to the parking ratio in the Teal Boulevard specific plan area. It was set for second reading tonight. However, due to Dr. Glancy's absence, we're no longer able to consider second reading. Item 7J pertains to specific plan amendment number 5 along the Teal Boulevard specific plan. However, the one in the packet indicates that specific plan number 4 was adopted when it in fact at this point has not. So what you have been given tonight are amendments to 7J, in other words, specific plan amendment number 5, which deletes any reference to the specific plan amendment number 4. It's my recommendation, since we're making changes to it, that we need to reintroduce it as amended tonight, and then we'll have it for second reading at a subsequent City Council meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. So I'll make the motion to reintroduce 7J as amended. Vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
What exactly has been changed?
The only things that have been changed is in the actual ordinance itself. I've deleted a reference to specific plan amendment number 4, and in the actual amendment text, we've deleted reference to the design standards, the parking ratio standards that were going to be approved under specific plan amendment number 4. Those are the only changes.
Vote, please.
The motion carries 4-0, and the ordinance title for item J is an ordinance adopting amendment number 5 to Civic Arts Plaza specific plan to add adjacent property described as assessors parcels 670-0-182-060-190-210-220-220 and -230 West Side property, and adopt appropriate land use regulations for said property, SPA 2012-70017.
Thank you. And then I had a question on item 7E. I guess it's for Mr. Adams. There is I know we had problems with the contractor on the roof, but now we have a budget appropriation. Isn't that what we have the bond company for? And what are the odds that we're going to be getting that money back? Maybe you could explain the status.
Yeah, the status. Currently, we're in negotiations and discussions with the surety company. Because of the way the prior contractor, also put a claim with the city, it's been the position of the surety company that until we can resolve that, they have not stepped up to take over the work. The best way, in consultation with city attorney, is to do the work ourselves and put a claim in with the bonding company. The hope is the additional budget that's being requested tonight, we would put a claim in with the surety company and hopefully receive a large portion of that money back. And that's the approach that we're currently taking.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, then I move item 7E. Vote, please.
Motion carries 4-0.
We have a designation. 7 is when you can start a public hearing, right? Anytime?
6 o'clock.
Oh, 6 o'clock. Okay.
Or thereafter.
All right. Item 8A is a public hearing, amendment to Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan to permit drive-in facilities for eating and drinking establishments along the boulevard frontage, subject to certain development standards. And can I have the city clerk please open the hearing?
Hearing advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item 8A, amendment to the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Specific Plan SBA 2012-70074 to permit drive-through facilities for eating and drinking establishments along boulevard frontage, subject to certain development standards. Applicant is Richard Winchester, and the location is Thousand Oaks Boulevard, approximately 3-mile distance generally between Moore Park Road in the west and Duesenberg Drive in the east. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding this public hearing. All documents for City Council and the official city record should be presented to the City Clerk prior to speaking, and speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. 2 people have presented cards, and pursuant to council standards, the applicant is allowed 15 minutes with a 5-minute rebuttal, and the remaining speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
All right. Mr. Alawami is going to be doing the presentation. Mr. Alawami.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to direct your attention to monitors for staff's presentation. Again, as mentioned, this is a specific plan amendment to allow drive-through facilities along the boulevard frontage, and as requested by Mr. Winchester, and again, it is within the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan area. Specifically, the request is to allow drive-through facilities for eating and drinking establishment along the boulevard frontage, subject to special use permit, and also subject to development standards which relate to the location of the drive-through access, the plaza space or outdoor seating adjacent to the boulevard sidewalk and the building, and also to minimize conflict between pedestrian and traffic circulation. Here's an aerial photo of the boundary of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. Brief background, the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan was adopted by the City Council at the end of 2011. The plan established design and development standards for the boulevard area, and at the same time it established a land use table that has permitted and regulated uses. Those uses are controlled or reviewed based on the location, and there are 3 geographic locations within the boundary. Parcels fronting the boulevard, parcels adjacent to existing residential properties, and other areas that's not adjacent or on the boulevard. Specific plan, when it was adopted, did not allow drive-through facilities on the boulevard frontage or adjacent to residential. The reason behind that is because of the typical operation of drive-through facility, which preclude the location of the building next to the sidewalk, which is one of the goals of the specific plan, and the feasibility of the cars when they're on the drive-through stacking lane, that's going to be visible from the public right-of-way. And again, it conflicts with the major goal of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan, creating a pedestrian-friendly environment. This proposed amendment before you tonight requires administrative special use permit to review proposed projects in the future, and also includes development standards that will minimize the impact of drive-through facilities and will meet the goals of the specific plan. And that will deal with the location of and the layout of the drive-through area and minimize the visibility from Thousand Oaks Boulevard, providing a gathering outdoor public space between the building and the sidewalk, which is, again, one of the goals of the specific plan, and to minimize the pedestrian and vehicle circulation conflict between the drive-through access and the pedestrian along the sidewalk and within the outdoor seating. This amendment, as mentioned, is filed by Mr. Winchester, and it's related to a proposed Starbucks, drive-through Starbucks at the corner of Rancho Road and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. It's in the northwest corner. And here's a conceptual site plan showing The location of the building in the front, in the corner of Rancho and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and the drive-through access and the stacking is behind the building. And it also shows the outdoor gathering space, which is right there in the front between the building and the sidewalk, with landscaping, decorative pavers, and trellis, and seating area. In conclusion, the drive-through facilities may be acceptable along the boulevard if those proposed standards been implemented, and those standards, any project in the future has to meet all these standards. It's not one or two. All these standards has to be met for the project to be accepted. Again, the amendment, if approved, will allow projects to be proposed with those standards, and those recommended development standards will again maintain the major goal of the specific plan by creating a pedestrian-friendly environment, which is the building will be located at the back of sidewalk, and there's an outdoor seating area for gathering, and vehicle stacking and parking will be behind the building and will be minimally visible to Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Staffs recommend that the City Council introduce the ordinance and approve specific plan amendment 2012-70074. With that, staff will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alawami. Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Alawami, the site plan that you've provided council in the staff report, is that an actual depiction of how many cars could be stacked on the property, or is that just for a visual graphic?
Just visual graphic. We have other, we asked for stacking study, and the applicant hired a traffic engineer, and they gave us further stacking. It could hold up to 14 spaces on site, and also an adjacent parcel to the north. So this is just conceptual plan.
You would access the property through Rancho Road?
The existing driveway of Rancho Road that access the lighting shop, there's an existing building to the north, and they're going to use that driveway. And part of the request is to connect the two parcels together with another driveway between the two parcels.
Okay. That's obviously, from a business standpoint, certainly one can see the value of a drive-through because the freeway on-ramp is right there. And I can see that this would be a very, very attractive place to stop and get a cup of coffee before you're going to get on the freeway to go either way. My concern is exactly the stacking issue that we've looked at. I don't know that it's come up lately, but I know in the past we've had problems with a fast food restaurant on Thousand Oaks Boulevard that has caused some issues with the drive-through. So I just want to make sure staff is I don't know what 14 really means. Sounds like a lot, but this is a coffee place. So, and I don't know how fast the turnover is. Where's the overflow?
Of stacking?
Yes.
If there is any, it will be along Rancho Road, northbound on the slip lane beyond the driveway. So if any stacking will be there. However, a part of our discussion with the applicant that there are mitigation measures.
Hold a second.
If
you
there's
said
any stacking.
Northbound.
Southbound, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Southbound, on the slip lane, and where the cars right now park. But part of our discussion with the applicant, and there's mitigation measures in the study that they submitted that to avoid that situation. We don't want any stacking affecting the public right-of-way, and there are mitigation measures to be followed if that situation happens.
And this is a special use permit, so if we find that there's an issue, we can deal with it if we have to.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you. The special use permit, though, would be administrative. It would not go to the Planning Commission, correct?
Correct. That's the proposed amendment, yes.
So the council would really not have any oversight unless any SUP application would be appealed by somebody else.
Correct.
Now, in a case such as, hypothetically speaking, as Councilmember Fox mentioned, when would the council actually get wind of it? Obviously through council mail and other communication, but...
Well, at this stage, again, unless somebody appeals the decision when we go to administrative hearing, and then if somebody appeals it, we'll go to the Planning Commission. Somebody else can appeal it and will end up at the city council. However, looking at the specific plan when it was adopted, 92% of all the regulated permits are administrative special use permit. There's only 8% that requires planning commission. So
How many drive-through facilities do we have in our city?
Coffee drive-through, none. But the restaurants,
The restaurant included?
I don't have a count of that.
And along Teal Boulevard, how many do we have?
Within the specific plan, none.
So the McDonald's doesn't have one?
At McDonald's, but it's outside
Yeah.
the specific plan.
That is just outside the one?
Correct.
Okay. And why would we want to have this approved administratively and not through the Planning Commission, for example?
Staff believes with the new development standards that we're imposing, we still can meet the goal of the specific plan by not having an impact on the boulevard and having the outdoor space out there facing the boulevard and the building closer to the street and everything else behind it, which is, again, one of the goals of the specific plan, to create that kind of environment. So again, the three standards I mentioned, any proposed project have to comply with all of them. If any deviation from that, it will have to go to the Planning Commission.
Is there any sort of safety issue, liability issue regarding the patio area so close to the cars being right there waiting in line?
There will be a raised seed wall in the corner there, and it's going to be landscaping and trellis in the corner, so there's going to be protection or buffer between the traffic and the seating area. It's not a high wall, but it's a low wall seating area with landscaping and a trellis in the front.
And this is only coming to the council, obviously, with recommendation from the Planning Commission, which was not unanimous, because of the applicant. There is a proposal. Doesn't mean that it will happen. Is that correct?
Correct. We're going through, we're processing those entitlements right now. So yes, we're sending nothing been approved yet. But this is just an amendment to the specific plan.
Is there any concern that it could lead to other applications for drive-through at this time?
Possibly. Again, the issue will be, can they meet those standards? Typical drive-through eating restaurant, typically they will have indoor seating area, and the building typically will go in the middle of the site with the drive-through circulating around to get enough stacking on it. So any eating drive-through requires a lot more space to be built. This one here is just a small building, no seating area, outdoor seating area for the pedestrian, and the stacking worked out in the back of the building. I don't know if any food drive-through will work on a small site like this one. I mean, in theory, you can do that if you have the building in the front and a drive-through in the back where the parking is. Yeah, somebody could do that, but they need a lot more space to accommodate drive-through, the stacking of the drive-through.
Going back to the buffer issue, is the trellis going to keep a car from hitting anyone on the other side of the trellis?
Yeah, the trellis is steel trellis, so yes, and the applicant can expand on that, but yeah, it's going to be a metal post with decorative stones, going to be strong enough to support that, in our opinion. And there's a traffic signal on the pole in the way somewhere, so there's other protections in there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Price.
Thank you. Mr. Alawami, my question deals with if this amendment were to be approved here tonight, then the applicant would start the process for this particular project. My concern is that I believe my recollection is that during the discussions over the Boulevard-specific plan, this was one of the, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but there's a reason. This was one of the intersections where the traffic went down to an LOS, I think it was C, during peak hours. And I would imagine that particularly during the early morning peak hours, that's when people would be stopping there and getting coffee. And I want to make sure that we're not causing a problem here. So is that something that, and my other concern would be that it would be handled administratively, the SUP would be handled administratively, and it would require an appeal by the council here in order for us to hear it. So is that something that you're prepared for, or you've thought through?
It's up to the council to if they want to appeal the case to be reviewed by the council. It's up to them. However, we feel with the standards that we have and the discussion we had with the applicants and their consultants that the project will fit in with the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan. With regard to the traffic, Beth Baden from Traffic Division will be able to answer that question about the traffic flow.
I'm sorry, say that again? Who would?
Beth Baden will answer the question about the traffic.
Thank you.
That intersection.
Right now, the intersection of Rancho at Thousand Oaks Boulevard is operating at a good level of service. You're correct in remembering that with the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan, mitigation will be needed eventually, but right now, the operation is very good. The Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan is looking at build-out condition, and the mitigation at this intersection isn't required probably for many years. So yes, this project would be adding some of the expected growth in that area, but mitigation isn't required for this particular project for the Starbucks.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fox.
Yeah, I'm looking at your diagram, and just for orientation, this is the former Shell station, correct? This property?
Correct.
All right. On page 17, and I think I may actually ask Chief Pentis to comment on this as well. As I'm looking at the traffic flow, they're entering the site off of Rancho Road, they're going through the drive-through, and then they're exiting westbound on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Because there's pylons there right now. You can't get on the eastbound side. Is that correct?
There's only right out. There's
exactly.
No left.
Only a right
out.
turn. No left turn.
Correct.
Okay. They're going to make U-turns, and they're going to make a U-turn in the middle of Thousand Oaks Boulevard to get on the freeway.
It's possible, yes.
It's not possible. It's common sense. And I don't know if the police department's looked at this, but not only would that be an illegal U-turn, because I don't think there's any provision for that, it's going to create a traffic problem because there's going to be, you have westbound traffic coming down T.O. Boulevard, and I don't know what their business model is, but I can believe 90% of the people getting a cup of coffee are accessing the freeway. And the other problem you have is you have access on both sides. You're going east and westbound on the Ventura Freeway. So I just like the police department to take a look at that, because I see that as a real issue.
They also can get out, make a right turn on Rancho Road, and go to the freeway.
Yeah, Mr. Mitnick commented on that, but that's not practical, and now you're having them go in a circle, and you're leading them right back to where your quote-unquote overflow area is.
Mr. Fox, our city attorney is getting very concerned here.
The one thing I wanted to remind the council tonight is that the Starbucks project itself is not at issue tonight. What we are considering is amending the specific plan to allow future drive-throughs. The impetus of it is the Starbucks, but the Starbucks project in and of itself, traffic flow, traffic impacts, consistency and compatibility with the surrounding area is not at issue tonight. It's just whether or not, based on standard design concepts that staff has recommended be put into the specific plan, whether the council should allow drive-throughs under these design criteria in the future along the entire Teal Boulevard specific plan area.
So is there an option then for council to comment on the specific at some future date?
Well, absolutely. If this council ends up adopting this amendment to the specific plan, that allows the Starbucks project to move forward and apply for an entitlement. But it would be
administrative, right?
The staff's recommendation is that it be administrative. If the council wants to change that determination and make it a regular SUP, it would go to the Planning Commission and then would have to be appealed to the City Council.
Very good. Okay. Let me have Chief Pentis comment, and then I can almost guarantee you, this, from my perspective, this isn't going to be done administratively, but maybe the Chief can shed some light on this.
I would want to look at the number of accidents that have occurred in that intersection, in that area along Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and what the impact would be. I would suspect, and I'd have to find out factually from our traffic sergeant, but that would be an illegal U-turn if they turned around to go on the freeway. I would have to look at it and have and come back with a report from our traffic division.
Okay, and Chief, I know you might hesitate from doing this, but your years of experience in how people drive and their tendencies, do you see this, if left in its current configuration, as being a problem, recognizing that people likely are going to try to access the freeway and they're not going to go all the way down and then turn around and come back?
Knowing traffic patterns and working in the city for about 20 years, I would suggest at this point it could cause some traffic problems,
okay,
but it would need further analysis.
I get that. Okay.
All right. That was one more question after the admonishment of the city attorney. But I have, one comment. It seems like this is going to be very rarely a very rare occurrence, because here you have, it basically has to be a corner lot, I assume. And with all the restrictions, I can't imagine that too many people are going to be coming forward. Too many projects are going to be coming forward. Is that correct?
That's what staff anticipates, yes.
I don't see how it would work without being on the corner. So, all right. We have any other questions not on the project?
Are there any speaker cards?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
There's the applicant.
Very
and
good.
the applicant is Neil Scribner, and he has 15 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Neil Scribner, architect for the applicant, Mr. Dick Winchester. He's here tonight down there at the far end. He's owned this property since 1979 and asked for your support here because it's been a while since he's had the gas station. So it'd be nice to build a project on the site. It's exciting because to me, because I've been on the Boulevard Association now for several years, and I think this is the first project that's coming forth to with the new guidelines. And it's exciting. We're incorporating all the ideas of the boulevard on that corner to create a people space, which I think is one of the prime directions that we had, was create a people area on the boulevard so it would be people friendly for shopping and activity and so on and so forth. And I think the way we're enhancing that corner is going to be very important at that intersection. There was a mention about safety. I wouldn't count on the trellis saving anyone, but we're going to have a wall there around that corner that will really act as a buffer. And so if a car gets out of control, tries to come on the site, we do have a wall to protect people at that intersection. So I think the wall really is more important than the trellis because the columns are far apart and an automobile or whatever could get through. We did have a traffic study, and something was important on the traffic study. It pointed out that in cities that had similar situations to this, it worked because, as you know, TO has a lot of Starbucks locations. Apparently that takes the pressure off of drive-ins, so if there's a lot of pressure to buy coffee at the drive-in, at least they have other areas where they can go right down the street to get Starbucks coffee. And that's been true in other cities, and that's what they expect to happen here. So we don't think stacking will be a problem here, but we can only go by what the traffic study says, and that's what it said. Yes, we have other centers there at that corner where the pylons inhibit access. And I don't know, maybe people cut through the pylons. I don't know. I've never seen it. But I don't see everything that happens there. But the other projects traffic is restricted, and you could certainly cut through the pylons if you wanted to knock them down and enter the other properties. We do have exiting onto Rancho Road. So anyone coming in from Rancho Road off the freeway could go right back the same way. They don't have to go on Teal Boulevard whatsoever. So I think we have two means of egress here. we used the existing driveway of the lighting shop to get ourselves further away from Rancho, or from Teal Boulevard. I remember the old gas station, if you turned in, you actually had to wait for some traffic that might be held up on Rancho Road at Teal Boulevard. But by moving further to the north, then it's much easier to get into the site, and it's much easier to get out relative to the corner of Teal Boulevard. So that was the reasoning behind the planning, and I think why traffic supported our solution and the staff so far. If you have some questions, I'd be pleased to try to answer.
Yeah, I actually want to just ask the city attorney if it seems that there's a lot of questions for this specific project. Is there any way to bring it up to the council with that? I mean, if we bring it up ourselves, does it skip the planning commission, and can that be without a charge, or how would that work? How can this council that seems to have questions get answers on the project?
It would have to be, again, the way it's drafted right now, it would be administrative, so someone would have to request an administrative hearing, then it would have to be appealed to the planning commission, and then the city council is the way it would have to go.
The council couldn't pull it up directly?
No, it would have to go through the planning commission, because the planning commission is your designated land use board. They are the ultimate decision maker unless there's an appeal, if it's an SUP, which is, in this case, it would end up being an SUP. So the only way it would go to the city council is if it's appealed up to the city council, whether it's done at an administrative level or a regular SUP.
So unless we go through that process, there's no way to really ask questions on the project?
At this point, again, I understand that, it's very easy to look at the actual project because it's a good indicator as to the viability of this type of a project occurring on the Teal along Thousand Oaks Boulevard, but this particular project is not at issue tonight. So questions with respect to traffic and safety. If the specific plan ultimately allows drive-through facilities, then they would submit an entitlement application. At the entitlement application stage, you have a representative from the police department who actually sits at the table and looks at safety issues such as security and whether or not there is any conflicts between pedestrians sitting at tables and cars driving through. And those are the types of things that would be looked at in much greater depth at the entitlement stage. So regardless of the design components and the design elements that the applicant is thinking of for this particular project, it hasn't gone through its full in-depth entitlement analysis by staff. So it would go through that if the council agrees and concludes that drive-through facilities could be appropriate along the Thousand Oaks Boulevard.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scribner.
Thank you.
And we have one more speaker, Mr. Kidwai.
Nick Kidwai, resident of Newbury Park, Director Concerned Citizens, Thousand Oaks. Honorable Mayor, I guess you and even myself have failed in citizen participation on important issues with no one here. And I even don't count as a person because I am dismissed by the council anyway. There are two policy issues before you. Traffic is not one, but it's so sad that despite 30 pages on the staff report, having a planning commission, the crux of the issue is not being discussed and probably will not be discussed, and we don't really have a free press, that the newspapers do not spell out what is being presented, and this is a policy issue and it impacts, I guess, the whole country. If TOTV will show my Big Mac from the 60s, this is what we are going to. I wasn't even in the country. I came in 71. I came to this city when Mr. Winchester bought this in 1979. And we've gone from sparse fast food places to comfy, really the other extreme. And now we are going back again. And the city attorney in 95 brought in the Act of God defense regarding the sewage spill, and I don't know if you folks even watched the planning commission meetings to see what was discussed, but I brought this up in that the day of the planning commission I was in West LA and went to a big McDonald's that used to be a regular McDonald's, and lo and behold, You couldn't, there was no door. And real small, ugly place in the front, plastic seats. Couldn't even get napkins because they don't trust. Everything is out there. In fact, high school kids were there, so I don't know if they blamed on that. And this is what is going to happen around the whole country unless we put a stop to it. And I guess, I don't know if I'm in the minority, but I think a lot of people do like, I mean, we have good weather here, but it's not perfect weather. I mean, I have a problem with my wife is that she keeps the doors open in the evening, I keep them shut because I like it nice and toasty. But some people, I mean, in Thousand Oaks, I mean, people sitting outside at 8 in the evening or at 7 in the morning, I don't like the elements. I like the air conditioning or whatever it is. And so many other people. And what America is about, it's about choice. I mean, you're taking the choice away. And you're making the decision without even thinking about it. Because this is a policy change. Because I can guarantee you, I ran into it. And if you do research, this is probably happening other places because it's a way for them to make more money. I mean, I have no problem with that. But the other policy issue which I have talked about, and we've come to the end of the rope on this, is this was a former Shell station. And this is, I mean, we are very lucky and we are in a prosperous, good area, so that almost all the empty former gas stations have been converted. But we take pride in having a general plan which is like a Bible and very sacred. And next year, I guess, the elections will be for city council, and people will just talk about, I love the general plan, I'm going to uphold the general plan. I mean, there's 15 or 20 former gas stations that have been changed to Baja Fresh. I know the mayor knows about that. To banks, to medical offices. These were not envisioned in the general plan. And I know other cities haven't done it, but I expect Thousand Oaks to be a premier city and at least have a hearing as to see what has happened to the general plan with all these changes that have happened in the city. I mean, I know it will be done, but not when I say it, because, you know, don't want to listen to citizens. I mean, my tie is not appropriate, but it's because, I mean, this is my council tie. I mean, listen to no citizen, hear no citizen, talk to no citizen. And my final point with the, how much? 30 seconds left. I mean, I don't know about the councilwomen here, but one restroom, that's what it is. I mean, a unisex restroom. I mean, I really don't think that's a good idea. I brought up the issue. I thought there would be no restroom. Then the applicant bragged that there were 2 restrooms, one for the employees. I mean, this is the United States or third world country that you're going to have a restroom for the employees. I mean, so I mean, there's one restroom for all the citizens, unisex. I mean, you have kids, you have a problem, you have to wait in line. I mean, this is 2012, and TV, please show that, and so that before I leave. The time is gone. I mean, we are going back to the 60s. I guess my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kidway. Is there any staff response?
Never.
All right. And then we have questions of staff.
I don't have any questions.
Any questions? No? All right. The applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal.
I don't think there's anything to be rebut, but Mr. Winchester asked your consideration on this, and remember it was a gas station, and you know how the gas stations always have at least 2 driveways on each side facing the corner, right close to the corner. So by taking out the gas station, that was dramatically improved, and now I think we've done all we can to improve this corner and to get the traffic worked out. We hired a traffic engineer, and I think we've solved those problems, and they say it should work. So appreciate your support on this. Thank you.
All right, I'm closing the public hearing. Councilmember Fox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to move for approval that we pass this item on, but as I understand the city attorney's admonition to the council, if we wanted to, we could refer this and all drive-throughs as part of the specific plan to the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're not treating this one differently. What we're saying is, if you want to get an SUP in the specific plan of the boulevard for a drive-through, you got to take it through the Planning Commission.
Right. If you look at the actual draft ordinance, it designates it as an administrative special use permit. If you wanted it to be just a general special use permit, you would delete the word administrative.
Okay, then I'm going to move.
I'm not sure if there's any other area in the ordinance that refers to it as administrative, and I'll look to staff to.
Yeah, I'm going to move for that with the amended language the city attorney put in. From my perspective, this has been a vacant property for a long time. I think this is a good use, and I think it's going to be very successful. I just think there's things that need to be worked out, and we would be remiss just passing it through. Well, we have a lot of confidence with staff. I see some planning issues that need to be worked through the process. It's not intended to put you through more regulation and costs, but the reality is drive-throughs not done well cause a lot of headaches, and so that's why we have the process. So I'm going to move that we move this item forward, but we amend the language to remove administrative review and that it go through the Planning Commission review.
So your motion then would be to amend the draft ordinance and then to read ordinance and title and so forth. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Introduce for first reading. Okay.
Councilmember Price?
Yeah, I would be in support of the motion as amended by Councilmember Fox. I really like the idea of this project. I think we need to see something there. I think it'd be great to, that's a gateway with the on-ramp and off-ramp there, so I would be very much in favor of having it developed. I too want to make sure that we're not opening Pandora's box and that the Planning Commission has an opportunity to review these SUPs and not just have it as an administrative approval. So with that, I'd support the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. I would like to say that, of course, at first glance, it seems a little odd to have a drive-through in an area that was intended to be pedestrian-friendly, so that is a contradiction. But the location itself lends itself to a drive-through. It was a gas station where cars used to queue up. Now, hopefully, they will start queuing up again without interfering with any of the traffic circulation. I think that at the Planning Commission hearing, a motion was introduced to have an SUP through the Planning Commission process, which was denied, but I think that that was very forward-thinking, and I'm glad that the Council seems to be embracing that tonight, an SUP going through the Planning Commission. That seems to be the appropriate thing to do, and I will support the motion.
I'm going to support the motion also. I know we can't really comment on the project, but it's going to be very convenient for our residents, and I think it does meet all the criteria. As Mr. Alawami said, I don't think that this is going to be coming up very often. Those are very specific criteria to actually have a drive-through on the boulevard, and I can't imagine that there's a lot of parcels that it would be appropriate for. So I will support the motion. I think it is appropriate that some of the further issues are worked out by at the Planning Commission level. Maker of the motion? Vote, please.
The motion carries 4-0, and the ordinance title is an ordinance adopting amendment number 2 to specific plan number 20, Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan to permit drive-through facilities for eating and drinking establishments along boulevard frontage subject to certain development standards, SPA 2012-70074.
We are now on department reports, and Chief Randy Pentis is going to present 9A, revision to the towing of certain vehicles user fee. Chief Pentis.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, in 2009, we looked at all of our fees, specifically with vehicle tows. There are 4 categories: all tows, all arrests, 2 vehicle code sections, 12500, which is an unlicensed driver, 14601 of the California Vehicle Code, which is a suspended driver's license, and DUI. There's a progression of the fee of the increase because of staff time and processing these tows, from the basic tow to the DUI, which is the most time-consuming. At that time in 2009, we looked around the county. We also looked at LA County and Santa Barbara County to see what they were charging for their tows, because these fees hadn't been looked at in a long time, and we wanted to be in the general range of everyone in the county of Ventura. This year, the grand jury submitted a report, and specifically with the 12500 and the 14601, unlicensed driver and driving on a suspended license, the fee was $300. And they noticed that there was an $80 administrative fee in there, which is not appropriate to have. It's in contrast to the California Vehicle Code. As soon as the police department was made aware of this $80 fee, we changed it from $300 to $220 on the charge for that specific category. And to give you further explanation on that administrative fee, the thought was at the time, and it's still a thought because the reality is many traffic accidents are caused in the city of Thousand Oaks by unlicensed drivers and drivers who have had their license privilege suspended by the court. So it was to be used for educational driving programs such as our Start Smart program. But again, as soon as it was pointed out that it was inaccurate to do, it was wrong to do, we changed it to $220. The other part that we're doing with this is we compiled all the information of anybody whose vehicle was towed at that particular rate, and we'll send a letter offering them a refund as well.
Thank you, Chief Pentis. Do we have questions? Councilmember Price?
Just briefly, Chief Pentis, an approximate number of vehicles that were towed, that were charged that?
I was just looking for that number. The approximate, if everyone asked for a refund from this time, it's approximately $40,000. I don't have the exact. I have the exact number. Not
you've answered my question. Thank you.
That's the price.
All right, we have two public speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Nick Iqbal Kidwai.
Nick Iqbal Kidwai, resident of Newbury Park, Director concerned Citizens Thousand Oaks. I am glad that the grand jury exists and took you to the cleaners on this issue. Unfortunately, they have not gone far enough, and I think this grand jury is probably going to be over soon, but I would implore the grand jury in the future to not spend so much time in Oxnard, but this is the city that needs the attention, and they can put people in jumpsuits rather than in Oxnard and fail after all the attempts. This is an issue of basically taxing us to death and goes against the very principles of the Boston Tea Party and the reason for the formation of the nation. And it's sad that the only thing at issue is the fee that supposedly, the only reason I guess it is in contention is that because the code doesn't allow it. Otherwise, the captain made a pretty good argument, I guess, to support the fee. And you can have many other Christmas tree ornaments to collect taxes. I mean, if I have bad breath and the officer comes in contact with me, maybe there should be another $10 slapped on top of the fine, if you can get it. I believe that the cost is just unjustified, and I mean, the devil is in the details. Nobody reads the reports, and I didn't want to speak on this, but I did scan it. And again, you look at our neighbors, Simi Valley and Camarillo. They are about $70, and we are at $220. I mean, why the difference? Why the difference? It's because it's an empty chamber. I guess we are an affluent community. People don't have the time to fight these things. I mean, my wife's ex-boss lives in Chatsworth, very nice lady in mid-80s, and she was given a ticket on Teo Boulevard for speeding. 85-year-old lady, I mean, and it ended up $500. $500 for going 45 miles or something like that on Teo Boulevard for 85-year-old lady. I mean, we are losing our nation, council people. I mean, you don't care about me, I know that. Think about the other citizens. Think about your parents. Think about the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance. Stop this nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kidwai. Our last speaker is Kathy Carlson. Good evening, Ms. Carlson.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Gosh, I'm glad to see this on the agenda because I have some background information on this from 10 years ago. And I didn't say anything at that time because I didn't want any retaliation against my son, who was 16 at the time and had a car accident on Moore Park Boulevard. So my comments are not about the towing, but about, as the officer said, the reviewing the tow rates hasn't been done in years. Well, when my son had this accident, there was a friend of his, their family lived very close, so the mother came out and she was going to call AAA. And in the meantime, a police officer came, screamed at the mother, told her to put the phone down and not to call. And she says, I'm calling AAA. Well, come to find out, there's a special sheriff's rate for towing. I was furious when that mother followed the tow truck back to my house and I came out. The tow truck driver wanted to charge me the special sheriff's rate, which was like $80. I said, no, I have AAA. My son has his AAA card. So if any of you have children who get in a car accident in this town, you can expect them to be intimidated. So I just stood there and I said, no. I said, we're going to have a Mexican standoff. I have a AAA card. You take it. No, we're doing this as a favor. People don't like to waste their AAA benefits. I go, it's not a waste. I said, I have the right. Take it. And it was half an hour, and that tow truck driver, called the boss, and I have to get permission. I said, yeah, you do that. So at that time, I didn't get the officer's badge number, but I called all of the tow truck drivers in this town and found out, yeah, there is a special sheriff's rate. And they also take turns sending the different tow trucks out and getting the special rate. So this has been annoying me for the last 10 years, and now I figure the Sheriff's Department can't retaliate against my son, who's a Marine sniper now. But when he was a child, it was scary. And that mother was scared to be told by a police officer, put the phone down. You can't call AAA. So I've said my piece. I am going to tell the grand jury that, yes, we need to reduce the tow fees. This is absolutely appropriate, and you also need to look at the accident, the rates for towing cars in this town. So I'd appreciate if that got looked at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. All right. Do we have any response to the speakers?
Just two comments. The towing is to recover our costs, recover the police costs. And the vehicles that are being towed with this particular section, again, are drivers who are unlicensed or their driver's license was suspended by the court. And that was the reason for that.
Right. Do we have a motion? Comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Move staff recommendation.
Any comments to the motion? Vote, please.
Motion carries 4-0.
Item 10, Committee, Commission, and Board reports. There are none. City Council Successor Agency to Thousand Oaks Redevelopment Agency reports. There are none. Item 12, Council issues and recommendations. Follow-up reports on meetings and conferences attended by council members. Our first report will be by Councilmember Price.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I had the absolute privilege of traveling to Sacramento on April 25th for the League of California Cities Legislative Action Days. It was an eye-opener for this new council member to be part of that. And not only did I thoroughly enjoy myself, but I learned a great deal, had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Gurrell, a representative from Senator Strickland's office, and also Fran Pavley. So, and asking for their support of legislation that will help the city. So I look forward to doing that again and to the process, being involved in the process. So I think there's a written report that's made part of the packet, and I'll leave it at that.
The recommendation is to receive the report. Vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
And I have an update on a legislative meeting that City Manager Scott Mitnick and I attended on May 2nd. We had a contingent of mayors, city managers, and staff from the cities of Simi Valley, Moore Park, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, and Ventura County Transportation Commission. I think it was mayors and then council members too. There were 8 people, and we visited at the state capitol to meet with senators and assembly staff members to discuss AB 1778. AB 1778 was introduced by Assemblymember Doss Williams, who represents a very small portion of the county. He's from Santa Barbara, and this specifically targets Ventura County. The bill requires that all cities in Ventura County return any unencumbered Transportation Development Act funds to Ventura County Transportation Commission for distribution to eligible transit operators or consolidated transit service. No other county is being required to do this, and our contingent saw it as potentially wasteful and lacking flexibility. It unfairly impacts East County cities such as Thousand Oaks, since we've made tremendous strides throughout the years that reflect the city. We've made tremendous strides throughout the years. The city spends approximately 25% of our local TDA funds on transit and the remaining 25% on local streets and roads. And while we are moving to 100% expenditure on transit, we were asking for flexibility to spend the remainder of the money on streets and roads, which desperately need financing. Assemblymember Williams' bill proposes to prevent local cities from spending any of these funds on local streets and roads, and like I said, this bill lacks the flexibility that we need at the local level. I think at the local level we know best how to spend the money. We had very good meetings with Assemblymember Cameron Smythe, Jeff Gurrell, Senator Fran Pavley, Assemblymember Julia Brownlee, Assemblymember Fiona Ma. And our last meeting was a little bit not quite as positive, and that was with Assemblymember Doss Williams, staff Tatum Holland, Senator Lois Wolk's staff Marville Brajas, and Senator Transportation and Housing Committee consultant Art Bauer. So we will see where that goes. And see if Thousand Oaks can continue to have some flexibility on where we spend our transit money. So my recommendation is to receive the oral report. Vote, please.
Motion carries 4-0.
City Manager.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to clarify comments I made earlier in response to the public speaker's comment about council medical insurance benefits. The maximum for the new council members starting in the last year is $112. I misspoke. The council member Joel Price opted out, so there's no insurance being medical insurance being provided to him, no payments on his behalf. So new council members have that. Actually, all council members have the option to go down to $0. As far as the lifetime benefits, there are only lifetime. Your council members are eligible for lifetime benefits after 5 years of service, and they have reached the age of 50, and they actually retire from the city with the PERS benefits. So very few have done that. I would like to stress the City Council has been very responsive to the issues, to this issue and those who've raised the issue. And many have referred to us as a model in terms of how the issue has been dealt with, and a number of other cities have asked for information about how we did it, and some are, in fact, repeating that. The next council meeting will be on May 22nd, and at this point in time, looks like we have a few department reports, one of which will be the necessary resolutions for the November 2012 election. We are coming back to council with the city's energy management plan and greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan. We will also come to council with the annual TOPAS project list. I stand corrected. We come back to the successor agency board, of which the council sits as that board. So that's it by city manager follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14, can I have Ms. Noonan please announce the closed session?
This is a closed session conference with labor negotiators, city designated representatives, Assistant City Manager Mark Watkins, Finance Director John Adams, and Human Resources Director Gary Rogers. Consultant Mark Meyerhoff from Liebert, Cassidy, and Whitmore, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. It is unlikely I will have anything to report after this closed session item.
Item 15, public notices. There are none. And finally, our adjournment. Our adjournment this evening is in memory of George Rathman, founding Chief Executive Officer of Amgen. Mr. Rathman was CEO from 1980 through 1988 and Chairman of the Board until 1990. This visionary entrepreneur and his small team of talented scientists created two extremely successful drugs that helped turn the young Amgen company into one of the most successful biotech companies in the world. Rathman, a chemist by training and a veteran pharmaceutical executive, helped raise $19 million to fund the firm's startup. He assembled a roster of inventive young artists and worked in makeshift trailers in rural Thousand Oaks. Under his tenure, EPO, a drug that triggers the body's production of red blood cells that carry oxygen, and a second biotech drug that simulates production of infection-fighting white blood cells were created. After leaving Amgen, Rathman served as chairman and CEO of ICOS Corporation and later held these posts with HiSES, a genetics company. Mr. Rathman was known by many as the chief architect of Amgen's success. In turn, Amgen's success has helped extend the quality of life for countless numbers of patients in need of these vital drugs. On behalf of the Thousand Oaks City Council, we extend our deepest condolences to the Rathman family. Mr. Rathman was regarded with great esteem. His accomplishments had tremendous positive benefits on people of all ages. And we are going to adjourn to our regular meeting on May 22nd. Good night, everybody.